Hello and welcome to episode 469 of Fergo and the Freak. I'm that bloke from Rugby League Project, Andrew Ferguson. You can find me on Twitter at AndrewRLP. And as always, you can find my co-host here, LeagueFreak, on Twitter at LeagueFreak. How you going there, mate?
I'm going pretty well, Andrew. How are you?
Not too bad, not too bad. We've had a bit of a medical chat.
Yep.
And this could be, it could be the last episode.
It'll be fun. It'll be fun.
There.
I'm going to record it anyway.
Yeah. There could be some home medicine going on tomorrow. There may not be. You know, it's been good while it lasted.
Yeah, I had a good run.
Yeah. If anyone's in the Penrith area and, they might drive an ambulance, just, be alert.
Just clean off my combat knife when I'm done. That's all.
That's right. Make sure you feed the dog.
Yeah. The weird thing is that, if you die, a dog won't eat you straight away until it's really, really has to eat you.
Which leads to another issue you've got. How many cats do you have?
2 cats, and they eat you as soon as you stop moving.
That's right. So that means your dog's going to starve, but your cats are going to be fine for at least a week or two.
True. The thing is, though, they're my dog is just so much bigger than my cats, and so they'll pounce on my dog, and it's just bad. It's a bad idea.
Yeah. Oh man. At least put some dog food out for your dog, eh?
Yeah, I will. I'll make sure I do that first.
Okay, that's a good idea. On that cheery note, we're about to do our 2023 season preview at long last.
Yeah, it's. I think that there's not too many. There's no teams in the league this year that you look at and you say, "Wow, they're atrocious." Outside of the Dragons, I think everyone else has tried to do something with their team. So it's going to be an interesting year, and we have a system that you have put in place. This is all on your hard work and dedication over the last, I'd say, months.
Yeah. Let's go with that. What we're going to do is we're going to give a rating out of between 1 and 5. 1 equals utter shit. 5 equals utter perfection. Half marks are allowed, so you can do a 3.5 if you want. We'll also make sure we don't do a 0.
Mm-hmm.
So we've got to be serious about this. There's no zeros. And so we're going to rank the spine, the backs, the forwards, the depth, and the coach out of 5.
Yes.
There's one factor that will be locked in because that is based on an overall ranking, and that's roster churn. So the amount of players that have come in and out from the roster. So the teams that had the least amount of churn, they get 5, and the teams that have got a lot of churn, so a lot of player turnover, they get 1s and 2s. So that's pretty much that's a fact-based one. That's not an opinion one. So that one's pretty much locked in. And so at the end, this will give us both Freaky's and my ladder, and we've also got it so it'll be combined for the two of us, and we'll have the Ferg on the Freak ladder 1 to 17. How thorough is that going to be?
It's going to be amazing. And before we start, if I've got to use between 1 and 5, I will use all of them. So there's some people, they'll be like, "Oh, you're going to use 1 to 5," and they're like 4, 3, 4, 3, 4. And I don't do that. I'm going to use 1s. I'm going to use 5s. I am going to use the entire gamut. So people need to be ready for that.
Oh yeah.
People get pissed off when I do it in State of Origin with my State of Origin ratings. And they're like, "Oh, why did you give so-and-so 3? And it's like, because he played like fucking garbage. That's why. So,
exactly.
Yeah.
So that's fair. I'm good with that.
Excellent.
All right. We'll go in. Shall we go in alphabetical order?
Yeah, let's do that.
We'll mix it up. Broncos. Let's have a look at what they've got here. So their coach is going to be Kevin Walters. He's in his 3rd year now. They've picked up Jesse Arthurs from the Warriors, who's returning from loan. Jock Madden from the Tigers. Reece Walsh from the Warriors. That's a big pickup, that one. Mm-hmm. And very late in the off-season, Martin Tapau from Manly's coming over. They've lost Jermaine Osako, Tamero Martin, Tyson Gamble, Zach Hosking, Jake Turpin, Brinko Lee, Tessie Nui, David Mead, Ryan James, Albert Kelly, Reece Kennedy, and Tyrone Roberts.
I don't think any of those losses are too shocking for them, really.
No, there's a few depth ones there.
Yeah.
And a few that, probably shouldn't have, they can't, it's not going to hurt them by losing them. It's actually probably helped them out a bit. They probably should have held on to Tyson Gamble because their halves depth is very light.
Yeah, and with Reynolds, the way that he tends to get injured at points during the season, it'd be good to have a veteran halfback step in at some point during the year. But at the same time, I think that there's a lot of players there that if the Broncos going in the right direction, it would be time to move players like that on. There are a lot of stopgap measures there that they got rid of.
Absolutely. I only think Tyson Gamble and Jake Turpin are the two that they should have kept. I think the rest they can do away with. That's because their limited amount of depth at hooker and in the halves.
Mm-hmm.
That's it. The rest of them, it doesn't really hurt them too much. What do you give their spine, which is looking like it's going to be Reece Walsh, Ezra Mam, Adam Reynolds, and Corey Pakes? I don't even know how to pronounce his surname.
I would say Reynolds lifts them up, probably a 2.5.
2.5. I've given it 3.5 because I think Reece Walsh should be a fullback, and I think that's a much better fit for him than being constantly moved around the halves and in this, all over the place. I think lock him in a fullback. He's going to work pretty well there. He's got a good passing game. Mam looked pretty solid as well, and he looks comfortable next to Reynolds.
Mm-hmm.
Their only weakness for me, glaring, is the hooker. But yeah, I do like what you said about Reynolds. He does lift him up quite a fair bit.
Yeah, I've got a feeling that Reece Walsh isn't going to be the saviour they want him to be. I don't know what it is. I don't know whether. I just have a feeling that he's just going to carry niggling injuries and just have not the season that they would like him to have. And I don't know why.
I think for round one, I think Selwyn Cobbo's been named a fullback too.
Yeah.
I don't know what's going on there.
Yeah.
So that'll change things too. Speaking of Cobbo, their backs. Now, their backs look like the starting backs are probably going to be Corey Oates, Katoni Staggs, Herbie Farnworth, Selwyn Cobbo.
See, I would rate them a 3 because the weird thing about them is the ceiling for them is pretty high, but then they can also have shockers too or be unavailable a lot. Like you think of Katoni Staggs, he gets injured a lot. So I'm going to go with 3.
Yeah, I've given him a 3 as well in the backs for the same reason. I think very good attacking wise when they're on, but defensively, a few bad reads do tend to happen every now and then there.
Yeah.
Forwards. So in the forwards, they've got Payne Haas, Thomas Flegler, Jordan Rickey, Kirk Capewell, Patrick Carrigan, chucking Keenan Palacia, Kobe Hetherington, Martin Tapau. I actually think their forwards are not too bad. I've given them a 3.5.
That's exactly what I was going to give them, 3.5. Yeah. I feel like it's definitely their strength is their forward pack. It's weird when you think back a few years ago, they had like what looked like was going to be a ridiculously good forward pack for a long time, and they've lost some players out of that pack.
Yeah.
But, they've still got, Haas is a fantastic player. I think Tapau will just be, solid. I don't think he's like a star acquisition.
No, but he's got a very similar style of play to Haas. Not frame-wise, but very direct running in the middle.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think he's going to be pretty good with Payne Haas in that rotation there. Their running through the middle of the field is going to be very strong and very tough to beat just on those 3 guys.
Yeah.
And throw Carrigan in there as well. Christ, there's 4 of them.
Yeah, I'd like to see a couple more toilers in their side. And I think we've talked about that for a long time for the Broncos, that they had a lot of big boppers, but they didn't have the guys that could get through a lot of work and stay out in the field for longer periods of time. But, yeah, they're not going to be easy to play against.
No, that's right. Now, the next one is depth. I've given them a 2.5.
I would probably give them a 2. I think that I worry about their depth. That's one of the worries I have about them. And I think that that's one of the things that is going to probably be a deciding factor in their season.
Yeah, they really do need to have as much as possible, an injury-free season where possible. They don't want to have too much of a hit there injury-wise.
Yeah.
Coach, I've given Kevy a 3.
I'm going to give him... I think he's done really well so far. I'm going to give him a 2, though. I need to see now him take them to the next step. Because what he's done so far has been solid, but I want to see the next step now.
Well, that's the thing. He's got them over the whole misery of being a shit team.
Yeah.
He's got them back on the, around the middle of the ladder now.
Which is one of the hardest things a coach can do. He's taken them from absolute rock bottom. And you think about how many teams we've seen in the NRL that have been taken to rock bottom, and it's not the first coach that helps them get out of it. It's not the second coach. It's the third coach, He was the first coach.
Yeah, he's done remarkable there, especially given that he hadn't been a NRL coach before.
Mm-hmm.
To turn that club around in such a short time, given the mess he picked them up in, has been nothing short of impressive.
Mm-hmm.
And to do it in such a short time, that's the reason why I've given him a 3.
Okay.
Right, next we've got is Canberra. So they've picked up Pasami Saulo and Danny Levi, and they've lost Josh Hodgson, Adam Elliott, Charnze Nicoll-Klokstad, Harry Rushton, Ryan Sutton, and Sam Williams. So the squad rotation has been pretty minimal. They haven't had a great deal of player turnover there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Danny Levi is basically a straight swap for Josh Hodgson, and not a bad one because
he plays football.
Well, Levi is actually a ridiculously good defender as well.
Yeah.
He's not going to do a great deal of creative stuff. I'd say Hodgson's a much better attacking hooker, but Levi is remarkably better defensively, in my opinion.
Mm-hmm.
And they don't need a brilliant attacking hooker when you've got, Zach Wolford there. They've got other guys in a bit of trouble with the law all the time, Starling. Mm-hmm. So they're pretty good for hookers and hooker depth. So it's good to have someone like Levi there. And Levi is probably going to be, because of his defensive strength, you could probably carry him on the bench and he could, take a spot in the middle rotation if need be. Purely as a defensive player, and he'd be fine with it.
Mm-hmm.
It's not much turnover, which is a good thing. So their spines look like it's going to be Xavier Savage at fullback, Jack White and Jamal Fogarty and Zach Wolford. I've given them a 3.
I'm going to give them a 2. I think that, at Savage at the back worries me. He's got potential, but he's also got the potential to be just an absolute train wreck. And Whiten last year was absolutely putrid for most of the season. So, they don't worry me too much, their spine.
I think part of the problem for the Raiders the last year and a half has been Fogarty hasn't been fit.
Yeah.
But he is now.
Yeah.
And with him, he's the sort of halfback, kind of like DCE. He likes to be the general. He's in charge, and he'll run everything, and he's fine with that. Ben Hunt's another one. Fogarty definitely fits that role, which is going to take a lot of pressure off Whiten, which will be good for Whiten's game because he can just get back to, ball running. Doesn't have to worry about trying to do much of the playmaking stuff. He can just sit with set plays and being a key member in that, which when he was playing good at 5'8", that's what his role was.
Yeah.
So I think that's a good thing for them. Savage, I don't mind him. He is a little bit erratic with form, but I don't know. I've got a feeling he's going to be a lot better this year. I mean, Canberra needs him to be a lot better this year because, if he drops out, they might have to get Croker back in.
Yeah, and that's a disaster for them if they do, And they don't have to worry about Charnze Nicoll-Klokstad at the back anymore, who, once he cut his hair off, was never the same player. and just was unreliable for them. So, but yeah, I just think that there's some issues there with that spine.
Yeah, their backs looking like they're going to have Nick Kotrick, Matt Timoko, Sebastian Chris, Jordan Rapana. I've given them a 3. I don't mind their backs, to be honest. They've got some good, strong ball runners in there, which is kind of what that suits the Ricky Stewart game plan to a T.
Mm-hmm.
Rapana just needs to be better disciplined.
Not so much of a dickhead.
Yeah, not even the giving away penalties things. He also needs to be disciplined in his defensive positioning.
Mm-hmm.
And when he chooses to go looking for the ball
Mm-hmm.
in attack, that sort of stuff, he just needs to be a bit more patient and much more disciplined there. And I think they'll be a lot stronger. So I've given them a 3. I do rate them probably a little bit higher than most people would.
Yeah, I would rate them a 2. I think that once again there's a lot of erratic players in there, and I think that there's players that you don't have to worry too much about in their back line.
Let's see. On the forwards, they've got Papali'i, Joseph Tepany, Hudson Young, Elliot Whitehead, Pasami Solo, Corey Harawira-Nira, Emre Gula, and your old mate, Corey Horsburgh. I do like the majority of those players. I'm giving them a 3.5. I rate most of their forwards.
Mm-hmm.
I rate them pretty well. Like Whitehead and Young, very good line runners. Tapani and Papali'i, powerful through the middle. Harawira-Nira, Gula, also very strong in the middle as well. They've got that forward pack that will just keep rolling up the middle, which is what the rest of the team needs. So I've given them a 3.5.
Yeah, I'd give them a 3.5 as well. I think that their forward pack it's top heavy, so that their elite players are really, really good, but then it sort of falls away pretty quickly. But their depth in the forwards isn't fantastic, but it doesn't matter when the two big boppers up front are really rolling. And we saw that in last year's final series where they just got on a roll. And I thought that they were going to actually beat Parramatta, I believe it was, in the game that they ended up losing. And they just didn't turn up in that game for whatever reason. But yeah, I don't mind their forward pack. But there are players in that forward pack that really, really hurt them. Horsburgh is one of them.
Depth, I've given them a 2.5. I think their forward depth will be okay.
Mm-hmm.
It's more the depth outside of that. So they're going to be good at hooker, but for places like in the halves or fullback or the 3/4 line, it looks a bit thin on.
Yeah, I'd give them a 2, and for very similar reasons for the Broncos. I think that they haven't got a great deal of depth. I wish they had a bit more depth in the forward so they could get rid of Horsburgh. I'm not a fan of Horsburgh. Huh?
No, you're not. I'm not sure what it is.
Oh, shit.
And finally, Ricky Stewart, the coach. I give him a 3. I don't think he's as bad as a lot of people think. He's been able to get this Canberra side being in the finals more often than not. And they've never really come across as a team since he's been there that is easy to beat.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's your one first main goal. You want to be a team that's competitive in every game they play. So, yeah, I think 3's pretty much about where he is.
I'm going to give the weak-gutted dog a 2.5.
There we go. Okay, next one. This is going to be an interesting one. We've got the Bulldogs up next.
Ooh, okay.
Bear with me. This is going to take half an hour. So they've picked up Reid Mahoney, Hayes Perham, Viliami Kikau, Ryan Sutton, Andrew Davey, Franklin Pele, and Jacob Preston, and they've lost Brent Naden, Matt Duffy, Jeremy Marshall-King, Jack Hetherington, Paul Vaughan, Matt Dory, Corey Allen, Joe Stimson, Aaron Shoup, Josh Jackson, Ava Suleimanafanai, Josh Cook, Reese Hoffman, Tui Palutu, Katoa, and Brandon Wakeham. That's a whack.
Yeah, there's a few players in there, but they had to get rid of some of them, you know.
They did have to.
Yeah.
It's a lot of churn, but a lot of it was necessary. Because for the last few years, they've had a squad that was full of depth players.
Yeah.
And
New South Wales Cup quality.
Yeah, and now they've decided, you know what, we have to move into having some genuine NRL talent here. And so they've been on a bit of a buying spree. But they have built a reasonably strong side. So we'll go with the spine. Now, I suggested in January when I wrote a club preview for the Rugby League Review magazine that Hayes Perham would be fullback.
Yeah.
And on the day that it got published, media reports came out saying, "Oh, Bulldogs are going to pull a surprise shock and put Perham at fullback." And I went, "Well, I'm not surprised." And the reason why, okay, people are going to probably wonder why, because they've probably seen him in the Warriors and, was it Parramatta, constantly in the 3-quarter line.
Mm-hmm.
But when he came through the lower grades of the Warriors, he was almost exclusively a fullback, sometimes a 5'8". So that is what is natural to him. And it made sense that they put him there. So Hayes Perham at fullback, Matt Burton, Kyle Flanagan, and Reid Mahoney at hooker. I've given their spine a 3.5.
I'd probably give it this is a tough one. I'd give it a 2.5, I think. Reid Mahoney, I worry about him in terms of staying on the field. Burton, I think, will be pretty good for them this year. And yeah, I'd give him a 2.5. Like they'll be pretty good, you know.
Yeah, I think all that support too from Mahoney and Burton is going to take a lot of playmaking pressure off Flanagan as well, which will help his game a bit, because I don't think Flanagan's a bad player, but he was just, I think too much was expected of him from a very young age, and he struggled to live up to that a bit. I think he's sort of played at his back of his mind a little, and he had a pretty quiet season as far as the media's focus on him last year, which I think was a good thing for him.
It's good, yeah.
And so I reckon he could be about to have a good season this year, because he's probably feeling a bit more comfortable within his role, got a bit of stability in his career at the moment, and got a good squad around him and a good forward pack in front of him. So he should be comfortable. Their backs, Josh Adokar, Jake Averillo, Braden Burns, Jacob Kiraz. You got Josh Adokar there. I'm giving him a 3.
I love Josh Adokar. I think he's one of the best wingers of all time. I give them a 1.
You give him a 1.
Yeah.
That's all Adokar.
And it's all Josh Adokar carrying that 1.
Averillo's not too bad. He's, though, out of position.
I just look at that back line and I'm like, I wouldn't worry too much about it if it was at New South Wales Cup level.
Forwards. Luke Thompson, St Helens' favourite son.
He has a bad foot injury. They thought was going to keep him out for 6 months, but it looks like it won't be as bad as they first thought.
Oh, that's good.
But he hasn't done much for them ever, has he?
Come on, mate, he's from St Helens.
That doesn't mean shit. What, is he going to play his best football in fucking February? Good luck to him.
Luke Thompson, Tavita Pango Jr., Viliami Kikau, Raymond Faitala-Mariner, Max King. It's a very solid forward pack. That's the starting forward pack. I'm going to give him a 3 there as well.
Yeah, I'd give them a 3.5. I think Kikau is like one of the best players in the game. I hope that he carries on the form and the progress that he was showing last year at Penrith, where he's just a beast on both ends of the field. And I like the idea of bringing on Tavita Pangai Jr. as well as like a shock trooper, you know?
Yeah, I think if the Bulldogs are smart, they're going to have Pangai Jr., Kikau, and Burton all on the same side of the field as Josh Adokar.
Yeah.
That's a pretty crazy combination out there. That's from the middle to the wing.
Yeah, that would be nuts.
Yeah, good luck.
And I think like Tavita Pangai Jr.'s probably best football where he did the fundamentals really well as the good stuff was at Penrith. And I'm hoping that Cameron Ciraldo can get him back to that, because when he went to the Bulldogs, it all fell away again.
Yeah.
To the point where I would still love to have him back at Penrith. I thought that he stepped right into the Panthers side and he did a really nice job, and they just got the best out of him. And I wonder if Ciraldo is going to be able to bring that back out of him again this year.
I wouldn't be surprised.
Yeah, he's one of my favourite players when he's on. Hey, like,
oh yeah,
I just love
wrecking
watching
the ball. Oh my god. Depth. Now, I've given him a 2 here.
Yeah, I'd probably give them a 1.5. I think that it's part of the process. It's, you know, what are you going to say? They're coming from the lowest of low bars, and they're not the finished product yet. And that's part of it, is getting your depth. That's one of the last things you can sort out. So their junior development at the club is absolutely non-existent at the moment. So that hurts them in that sense.
And Coach Cameron Ciraldo, I've gone bang line ball right in the middle, 2.5, purely because he's untested at this level as an NRL coach.
Yeah, I'll give him a 2. I'd give him a 2. He's come from a very good team. We'll see what happens.
Okay, next one, the Sharks. Now, they've also had very little changes. So they've picked up Oregon Kaufusi, and they've lost Luke Metcalf, Franklin Pele, Andrew Fafita, and Aidan Tolman. So I think they, along with South, have the least amount of player turnover this year. Their spine, Will Kennedy, Matt Moylan, Nico Hines, Blake Brayley. I like their spine a lot. I've given them a 4.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. I think they just all complement each other really, really well, as the game plan that Fitzgibbon has. Everything just works well for them with those 4 players.
Yeah, that's a good point. And it works off the back of their forwards too. Like, as a standalone unit, I would rate them much lower, I guess. I'm going to give them a 3 in the context of their football team, because you're right. Everything complements everything else in that Shark side. If it was standalone, I would probably rate them like a 2.5 maybe. But I would rate them a 3.
Alrighty. In the backs, they're gone. Renato Mulatalo, Jesse Ramian, Connor Tracy, Sione Katoa, and I dare say CSU for Talakai as well. I'll give them a 3.5. They've got a good variation there. Mulatalo, tall, very good leaper, and Sione Katoa, very fast, and both are very, very good at scoring tries, which is exactly what you want from your wingers. Ramian is a pretty handy centre, as is Tracy, but Ramian does have discipline issues, and Tracy is coming from a bloke who was a half/5/8, and he's had to change his game to be a centre. Talakai's another one who is basically a edge forward, second rower, and he's reverted to being a centre as well, so he's kind of a bit... the centre's not their strongest point, so I've given them a 3.5 though.
Yeah, I'll give them a 3. They can cause you problems, and they can be a handful on their day.
Oh, absolutely. Forwards, they've got Braden Hamlin-Ueli, Toby Rudolph, Wade Graham, Britton Nakora, Dale Finnegan. I do like their forward pack. They've got good versatility, good variety. I'm not going to lie. I love their forward pack. There's only 3 forward packs I love here, and this is one of them. I'd give them a 5.
I would give them a 4. The thing I like about them is their mobility.
Yeah.
That's the thing that stands out for me with the Sharks. 4.
Depth. They've got plenty of good forwards sitting on the bench, like Tig Wilton, Royce Hunt, Oregon Kafusi. There's a few others as well. It's as far as forward depth goes, they're pretty solid. They've got one genuine half. Their other genuine half was Cade Dykes, and the poor bugger's done his knee and he's out for the season, but he was looking like he was going to get plenty of game time as well. The other good thing about their depth, though, is most of them are able to cover more than one position. Like Wade Graham can slot in at 5'8".
Mm-hmm.
Talakai can play centre or the second row. So you've got blokes who can move around a bit like that. So I give their depth a 4.
I'd probably give it a 3.5, I think.
And now we're up to the coach. And he surprised me immensely last year.
Yeah.
He got a lot more of that Shark side than I ever thought he would. So I give him a 3.5.
Yeah, I was going to say 3.5 too. His first season was really good. You worry about these next great coaches that are all anointed, but he got the job done last year. So we'll see how it goes in his second year.
Bloody oath. Now here's the toughest one, I think.
Okay.
The Dolphins.
Yeah, this will be tough.
They get a 1 for churn because they've had to get 28 players.
Yeah. Kind of makes it difficult going from no one to someone.
Yeah, exactly right. So their spine is looking like it's going to be. We'll go through who they picked up. Why the hell not?
Okay.
Felice Kafusi, Jesse and Kenny Bromwich, Ray Stone, Branko Lee, Tessie Nui, Edric Lee, Anthony Milford, Jermaine Asako, Jared Wallace, Herman Essa, Ewan Aiken, Jeremy Marshall King, Isaiah Kotoa, Robert Jennings, Sean O'Sullivan, Mark Nichols, Cody Nikarima, Tom Gilbert, Connolly Lemu, Hamasai Tabuai-Fidau, Oliver Gildart, Balance Tawere. He's a very good, very big centre, young fella too. Michael Roberts, Jeremiah Simbican, Harrison Graham, Ryan Jackson, and JJ Collins.
They did pretty well at the end, like considering that the market was almost over by the time they had to put together a team.
Exactly right. And look, the one thing you'll find with Wayne Bennett's sides is he always builds his forward pack first.
Yeah.
Smart thing to do. Mm-hmm. Always has been. But we'll look at their spine. It's looking like it'll be Hamasai Tabuai-Fidau fullback. Possible. Oh no, it hasn't been named in round 1, but Milford or Cody Nikarima, Sean O'Sullivan, Jeremy Marshall King. Looks like the spine. I've given him a 2.
I was thinking 2 as well. Having the hammer at the back will be interesting to see how he goes from basically being more of a winger to being a full-time fullback. O'Sullivan played really well for Penrith. I hope he continues that form up there for the Dolphins. I don't see why he wouldn't. But yeah, look, it's a good start. It's a solid start. It's not an end point for them, but it could have been much worse.
Yeah, and look, Katoa looks like a very good young half. He comes from the Penrith lower grades from memory. Mm-hmm. Played in the World Cup and was very, very good for a young fella. Like, took control of the side. And I see he's been named at 5'8" for round 1. Yeah. Mostly because Milford doesn't look match fit at all.
Milford is terrible. Remember him at the World Cup, how bad he was?
Atrocious. I mean, this is his, 35th lifeline?
Yeah, it's weird to think of he went from being like literally $1 million player to, remember the recruitment where they got the Brisbane Broncos, spent all that money to get him from Canberra.
Yeah.
And the Raiders are like, oh no, we've lost this dude. We keep on losing all of our young stars and stuff. He didn't do much at the Broncos.
No, 12 months later, they've gone,
Yeah, it's crazy that a player can just lose it. It's like Ash Taylor. It just went.
Yeah, but I think Katoa is good enough to keep Milford from ever playing first grade again.
Yeah, I could see that happening, definitely.
Their backs, Edric Lee, Ewan Aiken. I wouldn't be surprised if Valence Tawere gets a lot of games. Jermaine Asako. also Tessie Nui as well. I've given them a 2.5. They're decent enough in the middle defensively.
Mm-hmm.
That's about it.
Yeah, I would give their backline a. I'm going to give them a 1.5, and I tell you why. Because Edric Lee was. I saw a thing where Edric Lee was pumped up and ready to play for the Dolphins, but not this week because he's injured, and like he was one of their key recruits, and I just thought, yeah, it's when Branko Lee's one of your players that you're picking in first grade, you got problems.
Would you pick him over Oliver Gildart or the other way around?
Oh, I would put Branko Lee into the Australian side before I'd put Oliver Gildart into the fucking New South Wales Cup. Oliver Gildart was so bad for the Tigers that they managed to get rid of him. They made a good move. He was that bad. Even the Tigers were like, holy shit, what the fuck is this?
How did we get rid of him?
Yeah, just take him, anyone. The Roosters were like, we'll take him. It's like, yeah, fucking we'll drive him there. It's not a long drive from Concord to fucking Bondi.
No, that's right. Forwards, Jesse Bromwich, Jared Wallace, Kenny Bromwich, Felice Kafusi, Mark Nichols, Ray Stone, Tom Gilbert, Herman SASA. I do like that forward pack. I'm giving it a 4.
I'm giving it a 3.5, and it's just more along the lines of it's their first season together. I think it's really solid. He's obviously gone for the veteran players. They'll get the job done. The thing I like about all of the older forwards that he's got is that he's not going to have to teach anyone how to be a first grade footballer, and that's a big thing about forwards, especially, is that just the grind and looking after yourself and, turning up even in preseason, ready to rock and roll. These guys all know how to do that, and it's a good solid base to build on.
Depth, I've given them a 2.5 because I think they've signed quite a few depth players.
Mm-hmm.
And they do have some pretty good links with the Redcliffe Dolphins up there, who have been pretty strong, not just as a team in the Queensland Cup, but also with the junior development as well. So they're going to have a pretty good base to work from there. So I think 2.5 is about fair.
I'm going to give them a 1, just for the fact that it's not starting from scratch, as you point out, but they're in a process, and I think that they need more depth, obviously, and I'm going to rate them 1.
All right, and the coach, it's Wayne Bennett. I'd give him 5.
Solid 3.5. Nah, it's a 5. How can you not give him a 5?
I know, it's crazy. Isn't it?
It's like what would be the argument to give him 4.5?
He's old.
Yeah, that's about it.
Next up, we've got the Titans. They've had a bit of a player movement, nothing too nasty. Picked up Kieran Foran, Sam Verrills, Chris Randall, Joe Stimson, Aaron Shoop, and they've lost Will Smith, Kevin Proctor, Jermaine Asako, Jared Wallace, Herman SASA, Greg Marzu, Sam Lasoni, and Corey Thompson.
There's not much. It just feels like shuffling the deck chairs, doesn't it?
A little bit. Look, they have bulked up their spine a bit because they've recognised that there was a genuine lack of leadership and direction in their spine last year. Mm-hmm. So picking up Foran helps that with the back line, and Verrills helps that an awful lot in the forwards because Aaron Clark is basically a backup hooker, and he was having to start an awful lot. So now they've got a genuine starting hooker with genuine attacking ability. It's going to help them an awful lot.
Then again, isn't Verrills just Australia's version of Josh Hodgson, where he just he gets rehab around footballers? That's his career.
Wow. I don't know. I don't think he's too bad in attack.
He's a good player when he plays.
Yeah, that's the thing. So their spine, I'm looking at their spine thinking it's going to be Jaden Campbell at fullback, Brimson at 5'8", Foran at halfback, and Verrills at hooker.
I feel as though if they put that lineup out, right, I think it's because the coach is saving his job. I think that Sexton should be playing halfback, and Foran at 5'8". And then Brimson, he's a great fullback. He's an origin fullback. People forget that. I like Campbell at fullback, and I would probably see if Brimson can hold out in the centres, which is underutilising him. But so I think that Sexton is almost the canary in the coal mine. If he's not playing, then what is this coach doing in terms of developing the team? Because I like Sexton as a player. I thought he played all right considering the team he was in.
Oh, no, he was very good. And for, a guy in his, rookie years still, and he had a pretty big forward pack there and very, inconsistent. He didn't have a great amount to work with, and he was still doing a pretty good job of trying to keep things together as much as possible.
Yeah.
I just think, I don't know. I want to see Campbell in the side. I think he's too good to be left out of the team.
I agree.
And the only way that can happen is if Brimson's in the halves. And if Brimson's in the halves, Foran is obviously going to be in there as well.
Yeah.
Why would you bring him to the club otherwise?
Well, and that's the thing. Who made that decision? Like, I get the decision.
Yeah.
But
it's a nuts thing.
Yeah.
So I'll give their spine a 2.5.
I'm going to give it... I think 2.5, because I think Verrills is going to be injured most of the time, and I actually like their spine. I really like their spine.
Yeah, it's pretty damn good. Very good attack wise as well.
Mm-hmm.
Their backs: Fafita, Aaron Shoup, Patrick Herbert, Philip Sammy. I'm giving it a 2.
I'm giving it a 1.
We've got an awful lot of rookies coming in too, so there could be a few others that come in that are unknown along the way.
Remember that, and let's go back to 1988 here. Remember that great outside back for the Gold Coast? Yeah, neither can I. 1. Can you think of one? Can you think of one good outside back that played for the Gold Coast? I'm not talking about a fullback either. I'm talking about wingers and centres.
Right, in the old Gold Coast or the current one?
Any of the Gold Coast fucking lineups. Like Choppy Close played for them at the end of his career.
Danny Peacock.
See what I mean?
Forwards. Fodawaker, Isaac Liu, David Fafita, Bo Fermor, Tino. I'd give him a 3. Tino's doing most of that work. If Fafita's playing at his best, then they go to 4. But I can't trust that he's going to. Actually, I'm going to make it 3.5 because Fodawaker is a very, very good forward as well, and Liu is pretty consistently solid. Fafita needs to pull his finger out though and start playing some good footy.
I'm going to give him a 4, and I don't know that I feel good about it, but I'm going to give them a 4 because they have some fantastic forwards there.
On paper, it's an insane forward pack.
Yeah, exactly. That's the thing. This is what we talked about with the Gold Coast all last year. On paper, they're a pretty good team.
Yeah. What the hell's going wrong?
Mm-hmm.
Depth. I'm giving their depth a 2.
I'm giving it a 1.
And the coach?
1. Can we give a half?
I gave him a 1.
We can't give a half for the last one, can we?
No, I'll give him 1.5 because he hasn't got a wooden spoon yet.
Okay, I'm giving him a 1.
Okay.
I think that he's a fucking disaster.
Yeah, when he came along that first season, we've gone, oh, hang on, things are happening. He was making good signings. Things are looking up. And then for some reason, it went down fast. And he couldn't turn any of that into a team that's successful. And now he's struggling to keep the team together. And there's been a lot of player churn since he turned up there, which is a common thing for the Titans, unfortunately.
This might be a bit of a spoiler, right?
Mm.
But you look at the Gold Coast lineup, and you line them up against the Canberra Raiders lineup, right?
Yeah.
I don't feel like there's a giant gap between those two teams. Right? Yeah. In fact, I might even give the edge to the Gold Coast lineup. But Gold Coast aren't beating fucking Canberra this year.
No. And Canberra's going to be pushing for a top 8 spot.
Yeah, and the Gold Coast will not.
That's the difference between a reliable enough coach and one bloke who's whatever the hell he is.
Fucking crap. Like every other St. Helens coach.
Next we move on to Manly.
Okay.
They've picked up Kelma Tuolangi and Ben Condon, and they've lost George Tafua, Sione Fainu, Dylan Walker, Kieran Foran, Andrew Davey, Martin Tapau, and Kurt DeLuey.
Do we know where Dylan Walker ended up?
Warriors.
Well, oh, man. The Warriors.
It was either going to be Warriors or Tigers, we know that.
Yeah. I could say, you know what? Dylan Walker would have been, I bet Tim Sheens was saying, listen, I'm telling you, lock.
Yeah, I reckon we've had that chat. We said, if you could put on an extra 10 kilos.
Yeah. Seriously, he could play lock. He can play in the centres. He can play 5'8". Oh, listen to me. It's going to work. It's like 2005.
All over again.
Yeah.
Their spine, Tom Trebojevic, Josh Schuster, Daly Cherry Evans, and Lachlan Croker. I give that spine a 3.5.
Okay, I'm giving it a 2.
Ooh.
It a lot depends on if Street Clothes plays. And if you had to go by the numbers, chances are he'll miss a lot of games, hence his name. And the others, they range from solid to promises of, oh, he'll be good. You watch, he'll be good. He'll be good. And it's like, when? Come on.
Yeah, if Tom stays fit, they could be anything. DC will be fit because he always is. Josh Schuster, this guy, what's happened to his career worries me. This is not on him. Okay. It reminds me a bit of Curtis Sirenen, okay?
Mm-hmm.
Good sized body on him, but he came into the game and through all of his juniors was a 5'8".
Mm-hmm.
The coach has seen him and gone, you got a good enough frame to play in the forwards. We're going to put you at second row. But instead of getting him to work towards that by making him play in the centres, for example, where he can be on the edge but still use his ball playing skills, they've just gone, bang, you're straight in the forwards. And you've got to immediately drop all of the ball playing skills because you're spending, far too much of your time tackling and then running lines. And you're not getting to do any of the ball playing skills, which are your natural skill set. And the transition is too harsh and it's too quick. And they did that with Schuster. He handled it better than Curtis Sirenen did, even though Sirenen's got a more suitable body for playing in the back row. But the problem they've got now is he's had 2 seasons in the second row, and now they've moved him back to 5'8". And I'm sure he's put on muscle and mass in order to adapt to being a second rower. How that will impact him moving back to the halves is... because I don't think his skill set's going to be the issue. I think it's more if he's lost any lateral movement space.
Mm-hmm.
That for me is the only concern there. But other than that, I think that's a reasonable enough spine there. Yeah. I suppose Croker's, he's solid. Anyway.
Is he a first grader?
Well,
is he?
The thing is, who else are they going to pick, though?
Exactly.
They've got next to no depth at hooker, so they've just got to go with him.
Exactly.
In the backs, they've got Cooler. I wouldn't be surprised if Ben Trebojevic is playing in the centres by the end of the year.
Yeah.
Brad Parker, Ruben Garrick. I'd give him a 3, only because the 3-quarter line is usually pretty consistent.
It is. They normally punch above their weight. I'm giving them a 2.
Forwards, Josh Alawai, Pasika, Kelma Tuolangi, Ola Kawatu, Jake Trbojevic. Ola Kawatu and Jake Trbojevic and Tuolangi is a very good back row. Tuolangi is a young bloke that came from the West Tigers and was one of the very few standout players they had last year. It was bloody miserable that they let him go.
Yeah.
Josh Alloway has been, let's say it, let's be honest, he's been utter dog shit since he left the Tigers.
Yep.
He's talked a big game, but he's delivered fucking zero. It's about time he pulls his finger out and starts doing something.
Didn't he leave the Tigers because he wanted to play winning football and stuff
That's
like
right.
that? Yeah.
That's right. And he's done fuck all
Nothing.
for 9 parts of his career over at Manly.
Mm-hmm.
And now that he doesn't have Marty Tapau there doing all the heavy lifting for him, pull your finger out, Josh. It's time to be a leader, mate. That's what I'm going to say. But overall, I think their forward pack's pretty good. I'm going to give them a 3.5.
I'm going to give them a 2.5. I think they've got 3 decent players in that forward pack.
That's half a forward pack, though.
Yeah, but after that, it's nothing. It's like we're not talking first grade here.
All right, next we go to depth. Now, the obvious depth players they've got in the forwards is going to be Sean Kepi, Ethan Bullimore, also chucking in, say, Ben Condon, Sipley. The depth is not too bad. And they found that Garrett can handle playing fullback.
Mm-hmm.
And he's very, very good at it, which thankfully he needed to be because he's probably going to be doing an awful lot of it. So I don't mind the depth that they've got, but I'll give it a solid 3.
I'm giving their depth a 1.5.
Ooh.
Yeah.
And then finally, Anthony Seibold as coach.
Now we can't give 0.
We can't give 0, and it is worth noting he did have a very good first season with South, and that is why I give him a 1.5.
I will give him a 1. And a low 1.
It's a very low 1.
It's a very, very low 1.
All right, next up we have Melbourne. Hoo-hee. All right. They have had a bit of player movement.
Mm-hmm.
They've picked up Tarek Sims, Joe Chan, Eli Katoa, and Aaron Penne, and they've lost David Nofaluma, who was on a loan from the Tigers, Felice Kafusi, Jesse Bromwich, Kenny Bromwich, Brandon Smith, and Cooper Johns.
Yeah, it's
their forwards have taken a huge hit.
Just big chunks of their forward pack gone, yeah. And really important players in that forward pack too.
Yeah. It's amazing how much of a hit their forwards has taken.
Mm-hmm.
So look at their spine. Now, Pappenhausen is obviously still not fit yet, but we'll put him in here because we're looking at, if they had everyone fit. Mm-hmm. So Pappenhausen, Cameron Munster, Jerome Hughes, and Harry Grant. I give that spine a 5.
Yeah, it's hard not to give that a 5. The only way you could knock it down is if you said Pappenhausen wasn't going to be there, and what the Melbourne Storm are like. I mean, have they ever had a bad fullback since they started? Like even started off with Robbie Ross.
God, never.
Yeah, they've always had a good fullback. So yeah, you'd have to go 5.
Yeah. Backs, they've got Xavier Coates, Justin Olam, Remus Smith, Deanie Rama. I'm giving it a 3.
I think a 3. I was thinking maybe 3.5, but no, three's right.
In the forwards, it's looking like Nelson Asafa Solomona, Christian Welch, Tarek Sims, Eli Katoa, Tapai Mauaroa. I'm giving them a 3.5. It's a pretty solid and consistent forward pack, but it's not the massive one that they had in the previous seasons.
Yeah, I'm giving them a 2.5. And the reason I'm doing that is because I think even in previous seasons there's been a feeling that you could belt their forwards and beat them that way. And a lot of the players that you would think, can we get over these guys are gone. So I think that it's just they've had so many of their good forwards leave. So, yeah, I think that their forward pack looks a lot less formidable. Obviously, Sims coming in there could be a master stroke because, Bellamy's going to get the best out of him. But, they've definitely taken a hit. They're going to need some of their fringe players to step up and progress in their careers, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. Depth. When you got someone like, Kama Kamitha, Josh King, and that very talented, back utility Tyron Wishart sitting on the bench, that's pretty handy. Wishart can cover fullback. He can cover the halves. He could probably even cover hooker, to be honest.
Mm-hmm.
But again, it's not. They don't have huge depth. So I'm going 2.5.
Yeah, I think 2.5. 2.5. Yeah, I'd go 2.5 because you don't know who the Storm are going to bring in. They're one of those teams that it's like, oh yeah, they're in trouble now, and all of a sudden they've got 3 rep players they've made.
Yeah, they just turn them up out of nowhere.
Yeah.
I found this bloke down behind the back of the couch.
It's they've got no depth in the centres. Oh, who's this 6'4" guy?
Oh, they just found someone from Papua New Guinea and he can just kind of destroy humans.
Yeah.
Craig Bellamy, he's a 5, isn't he?
5, easy, yeah.
And next we've got the Knights.
It's a rough one.
So they've picked up Jack Hetherington, Adam Elliott, Tyson Gamble, Jackson Hastings and Greg Marsu, and they've lost Mitchell Barnett, Edric Lee, Anthony Milford, Jerome Momasia, Tex Hoy, Suaso Su, Pasami Solo, David Clemmer, Chris Randall, and Braden Musgrove.
Yeah, no huge losses there, but once again, it feels like a little bit of shuffling going on.
It does, yeah. It's I don't know what to make of this side, to be honest.
Yeah,
they throw me out. Their spine's looking like it could be Bailey Hodgson at fullback, Kalen Ponga, Jackson Hastings in the halves, and Jaden Broley at hooker. I'd give him a 2.5. I've never been sold on Ponga, and I'm still not. Hastings is a quality player. He's a leader. Brayley is a very good hooker. I think very underrated hooker. Hodgson's basically an unknown fullback. He's a very young guy from England. So I'm going 2.5. It's kind of middle of the road for me.
When your fullback is English, okay. Now this isn't against English people. When your fullback is English, you're losing 2 points. So I'm going to give them a 2, and not just because of that, but just because of, I think Ponga will go all right, but we will need to see how he handles the workload. But I think it's a move they needed to make. Hastings, if he's just solid, will be good for Newcastle, compared to a lot of the other players that they've tried at halfback since Andrew Johns left.
Agreed.
And as you say, Brayley is fantastic. Like if he's back fully from his injury, he's a really, really good player.
Yeah, that's right. Who have they got in the backs? Greg Marsu, Dane Gagai, Bradman Best, Dom Young. Again, I'll give him 2.5.
I'm giving them 1.5. Dom Young, he played well in the World Cup, but I think people have just turned that into his entire career. He's okay, Bradman Best, if you say so, and the rest of them, like, whatever.
Forwards, they got the Saifidi brothers, Tyson Frizzell, Jack Hetherington, Adam Elliott. I've given them a 2.
Yeah, 2 on their best day.
Frizzell is another one that has done nothing since he went there, and he really needs to pull his finger out.
True.
I've never gone from seeing a bloke who I absolutely love watching play to some bloke who I completely forgot still plays.
Yeah, look, I think that he you could see the writing on the wall though when they signed him for that to be that player. It's like he was starting to lose his legs when he was at the Dragons, and they got a guy who was on the wrong end of his career, and it looks like it,
Yeah. And finally, depth. I mean, they've got Tyson Gamble. They've been training him for some reason at fullback, but he's a half.
It's because they've got a Pommy fullback.
Yeah. They do have a number of second rowers they've got in their depth as well, which are handy enough. So I've given them a 2.5. Again, I can't figure out this team. I don't know how I feel about it. So that's why I've gone so middle of the road with the whole lot of it.
Yeah. I'd probably give their depth probably at 1.5, I think. When did Newcastle stop producing talent, hey?
When they picked up coaches who stopped looking at it.
True.
Pretty much it. Speaking of coach, I'm being generous here. I'm giving this bloke a 1.5. I don't actually. You know what? Fuck that. I'm giving him a 1. He's done nothing for me.
He's done nothing. He's a 1 for me as well. The weird thing is that you see no progress, you see no change, you don't see a plan in place that has been augmented. And
do you think he knows how to do that?
Well, he was supposed to be the next big thing, and it hasn't worked out. And like we said from the very beginning, he was throwing shit around that change room in his first fucking half. His first halftime speech, he's throwing stuff around, and it's like, where do you go from there, dude?
Yeah.
And it's just really has looked like he has no answers. And I think that the only reason he's probably still there is because they can't afford to sack him.
That's pretty much it. Next we go to is the Cowboys. So they've picked up James Tarmo and Jack Kaczewski, and they've lost Dejan Arce, Tom Gilbert, Connolly Lemulimu, Hamasai Tabuai-Fidau, Ben Condon, Kane Bradley, Brendan Fry, and Emre Pere. Not a huge amount of player turnover there. Tabuai-Fidau is a notable loss.
Yeah,
but I can understand him going because he should be the starting fullback, but Drinkwater, to his credit, was in reasonably good form last year, and so Todd Payten went, you know what, while he's in good form, we'll squeeze that orange for as long as we can. And fair enough, so that's what you do. But I think Tabuai-Fidau is a far better player.
Yeah. But I can see where the club was like, look, we got to pick a direction to go in, and it's working at the moment with what we're doing here.
Yeah,
and it's unfortunate for them. And the other thing is, they're doing this while the Dolphins have $12 million to spend on players with no one on the books, and they've got a fullback role ready to rock and roll.
Exactly.
So yeah, it's just unfortunate.
It is. So look at their spine. They've got Scott Drinkwater, Tom Dearden, Chad Townsend, and Reece Robson. I've given them a 3 basically based on last season's results. They just, for some reason, they worked together really well as a unit.
Yeah, so, I'm going to give them a 2.5 for a very similar reason. Once again, in isolation, it's kind of like the Sharks. In isolation, you would give them probably a 2, maybe, but they're solid. They do the job in the scheme of the football team, and they do what they've got to do. So, yeah, 2.5.
All righty, the backs, Murray Tuolungi, Valentine Holmes, Peter Hiku, Kyle Felt. I've given them a 3.5.
Yeah, I would give them a 3.5 too. They really get the job done.
Absolutely.
I wonder if this is the year that Kyle Felt looks long in the tooth. We'll see. But, yeah, they've been dangerous, and it's something that at times in recent years anyway, the Cowboys backline sometimes was a little bit erratic, and they seem to get rid of that, and it was good to see.
Yeah, and Holmes really has started to understand the centre role.
Yeah. Last year was because I've been very critical of him. I know you've always been a massive fan of his, but I was really critical of him, and he's on huge money, although it's less now that the cap's gone up in terms of the percentage of the cap, so it's not as glaring as it was before. But he was playing really well last year. There was no other way around that.
That's right. Now into the forwards. I said before there was 3 packs I love. This is one of them.
Mm-hmm.
Jermaine Tanoa-Brown, Jordan McLean, Jeremiah Nanai, Luciano Lolua, Jason Taumalolo. You got Ruben Cotter sitting on the bench as well. I give him a 5, man. That is a multi-skilled and very powerful ball running forward pack. They're going to come at you in every different direction and keep coming at you, and they won't stop.
Yeah, it's hard to not give them a 5. Yeah, they've got so many, like, even, you know, like shock troopers off the bench almost. You know, yeah. You have to give them 5.
And the Todd Payton's even been able to get Cohen Hess being, consistent in a role that he's got set for him.
Mm.
And it seemed like that's all Hess needed, was just someone to say, you know what, we know that you can do all this amazing ball running stuff and scoring tries and shit like that, but let's be honest, that's not going to happen all the time. And you don't have Thurston here to serve you tries on a platter.
Mm-hmm.
So I need you to change your game, and this is what we're going to do. And he gave him a set goal and a set game plan, and he stuck to it, and he was very solid all year at it. And he's understood his role really well, and I think he's become a pretty handy bench rotation player now. Which leads to the next point, and that is depth. They've got rid of some of the lesser quality depth players and focus more on basically the starting 17 and about 3 or 4 other players. But the depth for me is pretty solid and reliable, so I'm giving it a 3 though.
Yeah, I would give it a 3 as well. They can afford to lose players, especially in their forward pack, and still keep rolling along.
Yeah. Coach Todd Payton, I don't know, I've got a similar feeling to him as I do with Craig Fitzgibbon, so I've given him a 3.5.
I would give him, I'm going to give him a 4. I just think, from what the expectations were of the Cowboys at the start of last year to where they ended up, and then you look at what he has done to change the squad just a little bit. He hasn't done wholesale changes. You know, he's turned this team from being one where you're like, oh, I don't know about this Cowboys team, to one where it's like, well, you know what? They're not going to be fun to play. So I really like everything he's done so far. So I'm giving him a 4.
Okay. Now, who have we got next? Parramatta. He's a team that's had a bit of changes during the off-season. So they've picked up Josh Hodgson, Jermaine Hopgood, Jiraiya Momasia, Jack Murchie, and Matt Dory, and they've lost Murata Niokore, Isaiah Papali'i, Ray Stone, Oregon Kafusi, Reid Money, Hayes Parham, Tom Opachik, David Hollis, and Solomon Noduki. So they've had a fair bit of turnover there.
Yeah.
Their spine: Gutherson, Brown, Moses, Hodgson. I'll take some pressure off. I'm giving it a 3.5. They've worked really well together. Hodgson's unknown, but the rest of them do work well together. Moses has confirmed he's staying put. I think that stability is going to work well with them.
It's weird because you could give them different ratings for like regular season and finals.
Yes, you could.
And then you could give, if they're all fit, or if they're like what you expect, and I wouldn't be surprised if Hodgson, if he pulls a hammy leading into round 1 or something, you know. I'm going to give them a 2.5. They're solid, you know. They're solid. Their halves are the big point, you know. Their halves tend to work well together. Gutherson is, you know, so as a player. Hodgson I've never really rated. I think he's overrated. But their halves are solid.
Their backs: Bailey Simonson, Will Penasini. I had to say.
Will what?
Penasini.
No,
it's Penasini.
Yep.
I'm being an asshole. Sorry, Will. Wanga Blake and Micah Sevo. I've given him a 3. It's a pretty solid line running back line.
Yeah, I'd probably give them a 3 as well. Sivo would like to see have a big year this year. They just re-signed him to a new contract extension today, I think it was. So, I would like them to, Wonga Blake worries me, and you just think of like what Nathan Cleary did to him in the finals last year with his kicks. I still don't think he's got near one of those kicks even now, but I would like to see them get another big Fijian on the other side of the field, honestly. Just a giant Fijian dude. That's what they need.
Bloody oath. Forwards. So they're going to Junior Paulo, Regan Campbell-Gillard, Ryan Madison, Sean Lane, Nathan Brown, probably. I don't mind their forward packets, other than, a few sooks.
Mm-hmm.
They do play pretty much exactly how their coach wants them to play. And I mean, hell, it got them to the grand final. So I give their forwards a 4.
I'm going to give their forwards a 3 because a lot of them are soft. They're so soft. We saw their souls literally be torn from their chest last year.
Well, this is true. Depth. I've given them a 3 here. They do have a few forwards for depth.
Mm-hmm.
And some of their players have got a bit of utility value as well, which will help them cover a few spots. Like Gutherson can play just as average in any other position as he does at fullback.
Oh, man.
There you go.
Yeah.
I saved that one for you so you didn't have to do it. That's
so good. I would give them 3 as well. They also tend to, produce a play here and there. So, they lost a lot of players, but it's the Penrith the Parramatta Football District tends to churn out a play here and there every so often, so they'll be fine.
Yeah. And the coach, Brad Arthur, I'm giving him a 3.5.
I'm going to give him a 2.5. I think that he's okay.
Not a fan of the nepotism?
The nepotism. Imagine writing a report and you say, the big problem here, it's nepotism as they're in the grand final. Yeah. Like, fucking Nathan Brown's a dickhead.
Yeah, because, we've got to have 17 players. Arthur's got also one of his sons in the game.
Who's a pretty good player.
Yeah, he's not bad at all.
No.
Okay, we are now moving on to Penrith.
Ooh.
This is a pressure on for you. So, they've picked up Luke Garner, Tyrone Peachey, Zach Hosking, and Jack Cogger, and they've lost Api Coruscant, Charlie Staines, Isaiah Katoa, Robert Jennings, Sean O'Sullivan, Jermaine Hopgood, William Mikikau, Christian Crichton, and Kurt Falls.
It's pretty obvious the salary cap doesn't work.
That's right, yeah.
And we need to see the players' salaries. But we'll get to that at the end of this.
So their spine, they've got Dylan Edwards, Jerome Luai, Nathan Cleary, and it's looking like Mitch Kenny will be their starting hooker. I'm giving it a 5.
I'm going to give it. It's hard to not give it a 5, isn't it? Like, it all works. They've got to work out the hooker role, and I think that they will.
I think. Like, Kenny's a solid defender, and they're obviously going to be carrying Luke on the bench. He's a very good attacking player. So I think that's going to work.
Yeah, so do I. I think it'll work. It'll work very, very similarly to last year. And I think Api Coruscant, he's a very good player, but I think the Api Coruscant that we had last year wasn't quite the Api Coruscant that we had a couple of years ago. He wasn't the same player. I'm not saying he's bad or anything. I just think it's, he wasn't a superstar for us or anything. He did a very specific job. And I think that we can possibly replicate that.
Oh, absolutely. For the backs, Brian Tito, Stephen Crichton, Isaac Targo, and Sunia Turuva could be the other winger.
Yeah. Because of Taylor May having his leg torn apart by that pub team.
Yeah, that's right. I give their backs a 4.5.
I'm going to give them a 5. And I know that that's pretty over the top. But you think of To'o's making like 200 to 300 metres every game. Mm-hmm. And then Crichton, how many centres are better than Crichton in the game?
Very few.
Yeah. Tago, this time last year, we didn't know who he was, and all he did was play like a rep player the entire year.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I think that, you know, their entire backline it's not going to be easy to shut down. I don't think the problem is the backs. I think the problem with the Panthers is the backs getting quality ball.
Or, you know, the forwards are doing such a good job that they don't get any ball at all.
Yeah, exactly.
They don't need it.
Yeah.
Speaking of the forwards, Moses Leota, James Fisher-Harris, Luke Garner, Liam Martin, Isa Yeo. This is the third pack that I love. This is a 5 out of 5 for me.
Yeah, it's hard to not give them 5. They have lost a bit of depth, but we know about, you know, their lower grades are ridiculous. When you've got someone like you've got a Mav Carter waiting, and you sort of think to yourself, okay, how will we implement him into it? Will he make it? You know, all that sort of stuff. It's a pretty good position to be in.
Absolutely. Speaking of depth, as you said, it has taken a bit of a hit. So I've given it a 3.5. I think, though, that I might be going a little bit... I don't know. I was going to say, I think it maybe was a bit harsh, but I think it's probably not too bad.
Yeah, I think we talked about this the other night.
Goes.
Yeah, they've lost the elite depth, but I think overall depth they're still pretty good. So I'm gonna give them it'd be easy to say, oh, it's a 5, you know, but I'm gonna give them a 4 because I think that. Sorry, I was gonna say I think you could. If you took one player out of that, outside of Cleary, I think you could take out a player and replace them with someone who's going to get the job done pretty well.
Yeah, that's what I was sort of mentioning to you yesterday. Was they all seem to be trained on a very similar system, even though they're in different codes and got different coaches. Mm-hmm. The structures and systems that they use, especially in the defensive systems, seem to be the same for all grades.
Yeah.
And so when they pick someone up and put them from New South Wales Cup and put them in the NRL side, while they may not be an NRL elite quality player, they will fall straight into the Panthers' defensive structure and won't be a liability.
Yeah.
And that's a good thing to have. Coach Ivan Cleary, I mean, he's just won back-to-back premierships and he's not tired, so I'll give him a 5.
It's hilarious. Look, it's hard to not give him a 5. Hey, especially when you think about like what he did at the Warriors, which is the best they've ever been. And then
even at the Tigers, mate, the Tigers' best defensive season has been when Ivan Cleary was there.
That's pretty crazy when you think about it.
Yeah. So, you know, he's just, it's what he knows. He builds up a good defensive unit and he works everything away from that. It's not too dissimilar to the way Wayne Bennett started his career.
I think that what we need to see out of him this year is to work out the attack, because it is clunky, and especially in the halves, and something needs to be done there. They can't just go steady as she goes, because everyone else is going to try. Everyone else has spent now 3 years looking at what they're doing and trying to shut it down. Eventually, someone will work it out, and they need to work out their attack, because it can't keep being clunky. You can't keep strangling teams to death.
No, that's right. Next is the Dragons.
Ugh.
They're punished. Okay. They've picked up Jacob Little, Zane Musgrove, Ben Murdoch-Masila, all former Tigers players, and Nick Luitoso. And they've lost Daniel Alvaro, Tarek Sims, Josh Maguire, Jackson Ford, Jack Gachewski, Pawasa Famasuli, George Burgess, and Andrew McCulloch.
Yeah. It's been a real good recruitment drive.
I don't know what the hell they were doing recruitment-wise.
They're spending $12 million on players. Where is the money going?
I look at this and I go, I don't know if the Tigers have done this poorly before as recruitment. I'm sure they must have, but this feels horrid.
Yeah, I agree.
I think back 4 or 5 years ago, and they had one of the best forward packs around. And what have they got now? What is this?
Yeah, you and me were talking about them, saying like we just love watching their forward pack, and they were so well rounded, and now they've got nothing.
Yeah, they're a mess.
Mm.
Spine. Tyrrell Sloan, Moses Mbai, Ben Hunt, Jacob Little. I gave him a 1.5, and it's all Ben Hunt.
Yeah, 1.5. And look, Ben Hunt is amazing. We both love Ben Hunt. Put him in. If you put him in any side, you could literally find a place for him in every single team in the competition, including Penrith. Like, he's that good.
Yeah.
And he's playing a fucking lone hand.
And he's carrying that team.
Yep.
Insanely.
Yeah.
Backs.
Are any of those other guys first graders? Really? Like, I don't think they are.
I think Little's an upgrade on McCulloch, but we're not talking by much.
Yeah.
That's only because he's younger. Yeah, it's not great. Anytime your starting spine has Moses and Mbai in it, there's got to be questions asked.
When your team has Moses and Mbai in it, you've got to ask questions. But he's fucking starting?
Yeah.
Fuck.
He's got to be. Backs, Matt Fairnine, Moses Sully, Zach Lomax, Makali Ravalawa. I give him a 2. Lomax is a handy goal kicker. Ravalawa can score tries. Sully's can be a pretty handy forward when he's, not having naps in the car.
Yeah, McNuggets actually played pretty well for them last year, I thought. And Ravalawa, he's always a handful. Lomax, he can get fucked. I'm sorry.
Now, you know what? I'm with you on this. I had huge raps on him when he first came along, and he looked like he could have been anything. And he was, for a few seasons there, he and Hunt were carrying the side. But his career has fucking nosedived in the last season and a half.
It feels like Norfoluma, where he's like, oh, you should all look at me because I'm a really good player. It's like, no, you're fucking not. There's a reason you're there doing that,
Yeah.
I'd take McNuggets over him every single day.
Absolutely.
Every fucking day. So I'm going to give them a... What did you give them? A 1.5?
2. I gave them a 2.
I'm giving them a 1.5 because it's half a fucking outside back line.
Forwards, Blake Laurie, Aaron Woods, Jaden Seward, Jack Bird, Jack DeBellin.
Once again, anytime that Jack Bird is a key part of your fucking team, you got problems.
I'm giving them a 2.
I'm giving them
There's no cohesion with what they're doing with anything here.
Yeah, it's like you don't look it's like they're a collection of players that play forwards. They're not a forward pack.
You look at it and you go, who's gonna have a combination with who here? And you just go, no, it's just Ben Hunt trying to make rainbows out of the shit sandwich he's got thrown all around him.
I'm gonna give him a 1. Like, who in that forward pack worries you, really?
No. Jaden Sewer can be decent. That's pretty much it. Tirafu Miono and Ben Murdoch Masilla, they'll likely be on the bench. They can be damaging through the middle, but I think Murdoch Masilla, he can only be used in short stints, and so I wouldn't be surprised if he comes on sort of 15 minutes before half time and goes off 10 minutes after half time, that sort of thing.
He's such a Super League player, huh?
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah.
Pretty much. Depth, I've given him a 2 again. There's a few forwards, that, as I mentioned, on the bench there, they're equal with the forwards that are starting.
Mm-hmm.
That's about it. There's not much here.
I'm giving them a 1.
And then finally, we're on to the coach, Anthony Griffin. I'm giving him a 2.
Yeah, I'm giving him a 2, which is a knockdown from what I would normally give him because I think he is, I think he'd be the sort of dude that would defend the players that don't deserve to be defended, and it's ruining his career coaching there.
It's exactly what he has done, though.
Yeah,
he needs to come out and be hard on these players, and he just refuses to.
Yeah.
Next is Souths. The Souths have had the least amount of player turnover this year.
Mm-hmm.
So they've picked up absolutely no one.
Mm-hmm.
And they've lost Mark Nichols, Cody Nikorima, Jackson Paulo, Josh Mansour, and Richie Kenner.
There's a couple of players in there that, they did rely on.
Yeah, Nichols is the big loss there.
Yeah, definitely.
So their spine is looking like it's going to be Latrell Mitchell, Cody Walker, Lachlan Ilias, and Damien Cook. I'd give him a 4.
I'd give him a 4.5.
Yeah, Latrell's looking fit.
Yeah, he scares me.
Yeah.
He scares me.
The backs, Alex Johnson, Campbell Graham, Isaiah Tass, and Isaac Thompson. I give him a 3.5.
Yeah, I think 3.5 is a solid score for them. They get the job done, and they always capitalise on what the halves have done too. Like you don't watch them and think to yourself, well, the outside backs really ruined that. They get the job done.
Plus the Cody Walker, Campbell Graham, Alex Johnson, Latrell Mitchell combination out there has given Johnson so many tries.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Let's be honest, this is our first big opportunity to see someone go close to breaking Ken Irvine's try scoring record. It won't be this year, but he's on track to beat it in his career.
Yeah, which is insane.
Yeah, ridiculous. Forwards, Tavita Totola, Hame Saleh, Jai Arrow, Keon Kolamatangi, Cameron Murray. I don't mind their forward pack, to be honest. I was a bit worried about it last year, but they kept turning up and they kept delivering for their backs. So I'm going to give them a 4, and it's largely unchanged except for Nichols.
I was like you. I really thought that was their weakness, but by the finals, they were actually pretty formidable. I'm going to give them a 3.5.
I think the thing that helped them too, and we're about to get into, is the depth, because you got someone like Saliva Havili who... Man, he's an absolute wrecking ball as a ball runner, but he's also got the skill to play at hooker as well. Unbelievable. But they do have some pretty handy depth players as well. I'm giving them a solid sort of 3 there for depth.
Yeah, I'll give him a 2.5 for depth, I think, which is good.
Yeah. And Coach Jason Demetrio, still pretty early in his career, but I'm giving him a 3.5 because, he's done nothing wrong so far.
Yeah, I would give him a 2.5.
Not sold on him yet?
Yeah, I'm not sold on him yet. There were points last year where I was a little bit worried about how things were going. He managed to turn them around, and I think I need to see them take a step.
That's fair. Next, we're into our last 3 teams.
Wow.
The Roosters. So they've picked up Brandon Smith, Jackson Paulo, Jake Turpin, and Corey Allen, and they've lost Freddie Lussick, Ronald Volkman, Daniel Saluka Fafita, Lachlan Lamb, Csuo Torquiaho, Adam Kira, Kevin Nguama, and Sam Verrills.
It's weird because all the journos have been focusing on the salary cap with the Roosters this week, and it's like you look at who they've lost this last off season. Who they picked up, which is really just Brandon Smith. I don't understand what it's all about. Like, what the fuck are they talking about?
They've turned what was a long-running joke about the salary sombrero thing, and they've gone, maybe there's something in this. So they've just picked on the Roosters because they're the obvious, easy target. It's low-hanging fruit. That's all it is. And yeah. Some of the prices they made up, as we discussed on the last episode, $600,000 a year for fucking Matt Lodge. Come off it.
It's ridiculous.
Anyway, their spine is James Tedesco, Luke Keary, Sam Walker, Brandon Smith. I'd give it a 4.5.
I'm going to give it a. This is a tough one. I'm going to give it a 3. No, I'm going to give it a 4. It just makes a 4 for me.
It's a pretty solid spine.
The thing that gets me is Kiri going to finish the season? Is Walker going to be able to get through the season? That's the problem for me. I also worry about, Brandon Smith. The Storm didn't make him an 80-minute, he's our be-all and end-all hooker. Now, I think a lot of that had to do with probably the mindset that he has towards the game and the fact that they had a very good player there that was ticked every single box.
I think that's what more of what it was, is the fact that they needed to make sure that Harry Grant was getting game time because he is an 80-minute hooker.
Yeah, I don't know. I just think that, is he going to be, can you play Brandon Smith 80 minutes every single week? We'll find out.
Yeah. Okay, backs. Daniel Tupou, Paul Momirovski, Joseph Manu, Joseph Suaalii. I'm giving them a 4.
I will give them I'd probably give them man, it's a tough one. I give them a 4, yeah. Yeah, a 4.
Tupou does have a very good leap on him.
Yeah.
And as does Suaalii. I mean, his game come a long way in a very short period of time in the back half of the last season. I went from being one of his knockers to being a fan of him. I'm not afraid to admit it.
Sorry. I was going to say, I'm going to get, because he's off contract at the end of next year, I believe.
Mm-hmm.
I think this will be his last year at the Roosters.
Oh, off to the Panthers?
100%. Panther or he's from Penrith, hey? I just think that he's showed what he can do at the World Cup as a fullback. I think that's his future, is as a fullback. He could be a rep center if he wanted to, but the fullback money is so much more. And I just think that this year he's going to be like, and Manu had the potential to do this too. And Manu sort of said, look, I'm pretty happy here.
I wonder if Manu was told that, you're younger than Tedesco. You're going to take over the fullback gig when he goes. And so he's first in line. And I think that's probably what made him stay.
And I guess the other thing is too, they probably said, look at Roger Tuivasa-Sheck. He went, he was our fullback. He went, got the money. And then what happened? He toiled away behind a terrible Warriors team, Yeah. Do you really want to leave good situation? And that's a good point.
Yeah.
But I think with Suaalii, it's going to be, why wouldn't you throw big money at him if you were the Dolphins? Why wouldn't you throw big money at him if you were the Titans? Might, if they can get from under Fafita's contract and they've got $1 million and a bit to spend. And I know they've got 2 other fullbacks already there, but you could have Suaalii as your fullback. It's just a feeling I've got, and I could be completely wrong.
I think given how young he is, he just needs someone to get in his ear and say, you don't need to take the $1 million just now because there are bigger contracts coming. Just fine-tune your game, hone it a bit more. We'll ease you into the fullback role. And if they can get him to be patient, they can get him to stay. And they'll be able to look after him. But, as you said, there's going to be huge money thrown at him pretty soon.
What if the Storm have a rough season with Pappenhausen and they're like, this ain't working? And they say, we could get Joseph Suaalii.
They will probably have the money to do it too, given that they've lost a huge amount in the salary cap.
Mm-hmm.
Sorry, in players taking up space in the salary cap, and they haven't really replaced them. So they would probably go close to having the money to offer him a huge deal.
Yeah,
and on fullback money.
We know the Dolphins will have the money. Penrith losing Crichton, they haven't replaced him with somebody that's on a centre's money.
Well, they haven't really replaced Kikau either, to be honest, as far as, like for likes income.
Yeah. And I'm not saying he's going to Penrith. It's just what I'm saying is there are teams out there that do have the money and the salary cap did go up. And it's just going to be interesting because teams will make him offers like that. That his manager is going to know that there are 5 or 6 teams that are ready to put down $1 million on this young kid.
Yeah,
and they'll be saying, somebody's going to say, do you want to play wing for the Roosters or do you want to be the fullback for this team, or this team for $1 million? Right. It's going to be hard for him to turn that down.
Yeah.
And that's not even counting rugby union, they don't have, 2 fucking nickels to rub together, but they'll loan the money to do it.
Yeah, credit card's good.
Yeah.
You take plastic. Right, in their forwards, they've got Warrior Hargraves, Lindsay Collins, Angus Crichton, or he could be out for a big chunk of the year.
Yeah, there was talk that they would look to try and get a salary cap exemption for him, which says to me that maybe he won't come back to the Roosters. I wouldn't be shocked if he ended up going to rugby union, to be honest with you. I don't know anything about his personal situation at all. I just know that he's taken a personal break from the Roosters to get himself together. Hopefully he's all right, but the fact that they looked into the salary cap dispensation for his absence means that he would have to not be there for the entire season, which to me says they think this will be a long-term thing.
Yeah. I think you can still get the dispensation if it's for half the season as well. So they might be just saying, you know what, come back after Origin.
Yeah.
That way, you're not going to get picked for Origin. Don't even worry about it. Just take that time off.
It's sad, hey? It's sad when you think about a dude that's on big money to play footy and stuff, but he's still needed. And he must have waited the entire off season because it was pretty late in the preseason preparation that it come out. But
yeah, and it must be something pretty major too, because he's never come across as the sort of person that's selfish or does stupid shit. He's always come across as pretty much a team player sort of thing.
Yeah.
So it must be something pretty major. So hopefully it's nothing too bad and he gets himself right. If he's not in there, they'll probably bring in Matt Lodge into the lineup. There's also got Nat Butcher, Egan Butcher, and obviously Victor Radley as well. They've got a pretty good forward pack. I'm giving it a 4.
I'm giving their forward pack a 3. I think some of the players are long in the tooth. I think Victor Radley you can't rely on. The loss of Crichton is a loss.
Oh, it's big.
Yeah, so I'm giving them a 3.
Now for the depth, they do have decent enough forward depth. Yeah. They'll probably carry Connor Watson on the bench, and he can cover most positions. He's kind of like the Roosters' version of Clint Gutherson, really.
Why would you say that about him? That's horrible.
Except he can tackle. So I give him a 3 for depth. They've always been pretty handy with backup players.
Yeah, I think 3 for depth is reasonable. Yeah, same here.
And for the coach, Trent Robinson, look, I give him a 5.
I give him a 4. I think he's a bit overrated. Yeah. But he's still a good coach. But I don't think he's this master fucking coach or anything.
All right, we're on to the 2 easiest ones. The Warriors.
Ugh.
So, talk about churn. All right. They've picked up Murata Niokore, Luke Metcalf, Dylan Walker, Mitch Barnett, Charles Dickel-Klokstad, Tamero Martin, Jackson Ford and Braden Williami. And they've lost Matt Lodge, Jesse Arthurs, Ewan Aiken, Reece Walsh, Eli Katoa, Aaron Penne, Jack Murchie, Ben Murdoch-Masila, Dejan Arce, Chanel Harris-Tavita, Dunamis Louis, Ilyasa Ratuva, Pride Patterson-Rabadi, and Ash Taylor.
Well, they did need a new team, to be fair.
They did. They've had a huge clean-out. Yeah.
That's you know what that's like. It's terrible. We know how messed around they were with COVID. This time last year, they were pre-season training in Australia.
Yeah.
What they've just done is had a post-COVID shit.
That's pretty much it.
That's what they've done. And they needed that post-COVID shit, Got that out the way now.
Yep. It's out of the system.
Yep.
We can move on. So their spine is looking like it's going to be Charles Nickel-Clockstad, Dylan Walker, Sean Johnson, Wade Egan. I've given it a 2.
I'm going to
I'll be honest too. It's a high 2.
Yeah, I'm thinking 1.5.
See,
hey?
I'm looking at it going, do I rate this spine higher or equal to the Dragon spine? Because I gave the Dragon spine a 1.5. And
what did I give the Dragon spine?
You gave the Dragon spine 1.5.
They have more experience than the Dragon spine, I think.
Yeah, and Charles Nickel-Clockstad is a better fullback than Tyrrell Sloan.
Yep, and look, Dylan Walker, he exists.
Is he better than most of them by?
He is, yeah. Let's be fair, he is.
Yeah.
The thing is, Sean Johnson it's over.
Oh, he's done.
It's finished.
He had a chance against some minnow nations in the World Cup to do something, and did he play in the World Cup?
No.
No, he didn't get picked. That's all right.
But I just remember last year watching him in so many games and being like, "This is over. Like, what are we doing here?"
Yeah. So, where do you rate him? Are you going to rate him equal with the Dragons or half a point above, or?
I'm gonna stick with my 1.5 because with the Dragons, it's Ben Hunt and no one.
That's right.
And I know these guys aren't great, but there's first grade. They've got a lot of first grade experience between them. They've seen a lot of things. You don't want to go out ordering pizza with some of them, but
or having PlayStation battles with them.
Yeah. You don't want to turn off the PlayStation.
No, don't do that.
No, but yeah, it's not good.
No. Their backs: Marcelo Montoya, Viliami Viola, Rocco Berry, Dallin Watene-Zelezniak. I'm giving them a 2.
That's a rough one. I'm giving them oh man, I think I'm giving them a super generous 1.5. I'm being super generous. I'm getting visions of Dallin Watene-Zelezniak tearing it up for New Zealand at fullback, and that's just clouding my judgment.
Yeah,
for my 1.5.
Likewise. Forwards: Aden Fanua-Blake, Bunty Afoa, Tohu Harris, Mitch Barnett. I'm giving him 2.5, and nearly all of those points are because of Tohu Harris.
Yeah, he's one of those real professional players, huh? He just does it everywhere. I'm going to give them I'm going to give them 2, and it's a super generous 2.
Depth. I don't know. I think the squad is made up of depth players, so I'm giving them a 2.5. Let's be honest.
I tell you what, they've got a lot of good lower grade players in their entire side.
Yes.
Depth. I'm going to give them a 1.5. They need to do this. It's not going to be pretty, but they need to do this.
That's right. Yeah. Our coach Andrew Webster. We've not really seen much of him, so I'm just going to give him a 2.5.
Yeah, I'll give him a starting point of 2.
That's fair. Actually, no, I should make it 2 because I gave I gave 2.5 to Cameron Ciraldo as well. I'll stick with that.
Mm-hmm.
Why can't this team start with the letter A so I can get out of my way early? Why does this come up near the end?
It feels like a fitting finale, though.
I know, it's funny horrible. West Tigers. So they've picked up Isaiah Papali'i, Appy Coruscant, Charlie Staines, John Bateman, Tristan Riley, Will Smith, David Clemmer, Brandon Wakeham, David Nofaluma returns from loan. They've lost Luciano Laulua, Luke Garner, Tyrone Peachy, Kelma Tuolungi, Jacob Little, Zane Musgrove, Jock Madden, Oliver Gilder, Jackson Hastings, William Kai, and James Roberts. That's a lot of turnover.
Yeah.
But there's a lot of turnover that need to happen.
Yes.
They They did actually finally pull their finger out and get rid of a lot of players that they needed to.
Yes.
But they also lost Lailua, Garner, and Tuolungi, who they did not need to lose. And they probably should have hung on to Hastings as well, to be honest.
Yeah, it's weird. It's like they might be their 4 best performers from last year, hey?
Yeah.
It's crazy.
Especially Garner. Garner and Hastings and Tuolungi just set the world on fire at the Tigers. He looked an absolute fucking $1 million there. And we're looking at him going, oh, we finally found a good forward. Oh, he's gone to Manly. Fuck! So their spine is looking like it's going to be Dane Laurie, Adam Dewey, Luke Brooks, and Api Coruscant. Now, I will be biased, so I'm going to give it a 3, and it's mostly because of Coruscant and Laurie. Actually, and Dewey as well. I'd probably give it a 3.5 if they had a proper halfback, but Luke Brooks actually takes half a point off him.
I'm going to give them
I've defended him.
Okay.
I've defended him for quite a while in his skill set. No more.
Well, look, you're not allowed to say anything bad about Luke Brooks.
No, it's bullying.
Yeah.
So I'm just not going to say anything nice about him.
I'm going to give them a super generous 2, and it's more along the lines of Coruscant. We'll see if Dane Laurie can take another step forward in his career. He needs to. And like Dewey is, I don't know that he's a first grader, to be honest. And Brooks, I've been out on Brooks for a very long time now. So
yeah. Backs, Nofaluma, Kepawa, Stafford Toa, Kem Marmelo. I give him a 2.
I'm going to give them a fuck. That's bad.
Hey, with Kepawa and Toa, they've got 2 strong ball running players who are also defensively reliable. That's something more than what they had before, which was Roberts, who was just who knows what he was doing in fucking Gildart.
True.
But still 2, because Noffalim is there, and Malmelo's about as fast as me.
Well, the thing, I feel like Norfoluma, instead of all of the things you'd hope for, where it's like, I learned a lot of things at the Storm. I learned, professionalism, how to be, how to prepare and stuff. I feel like he would turn up and be like, hey, I used to play for the Storm, hey. You see me playing for the Storm? I've played finals football, hey. I feel like that's the way it would go. I'm going 1.5.
Righty. Forwards. This is where they've done most of their work. So they've got Clemmer, Utica Manu, Papali'i, Bateman, and Twal. I'm giving them a 3.5. I know I'm being biased and generous, but they've actually got some decent workers in the middle. They've got some decent attacking players on the edge. When I say decent, I mean, they belong in the NRL. That's decent enough for me. So that's pretty much what that's based on, which means I'm putting them in the same category as, say, the Bulldogs forward pack.
I'm going to...
Actually, I just saw a few of my other scores. I'm going to have to change it to 3. It's too high.
Okay.
I'm giving them a 3.
I'm giving them a generous 2. I think Clemmer, as soon as David Clemmer looks like he could be fucking bothered to play football while he's out there playing football, then I'll start rating him again, right?
Yeah.
And Bateman, the clock is already ticking on that.
Yeah.
Papali'i is a great, great signing. I fucking love him as a player.
And look, Utica Manu actually was playing most of last year injured. He's now injury-free, and when he was playing injury-free, he was making massive meters through the middle. Mm-hmm. Hence why he got called up as the 18th man for New South Wales 2 years ago. Mm-hmm. If he can go back to that form again, that would be bloody brilliant. Depth, I've given him a 2.5 because they've got, Sean Blaw's a very good second rower. He's now finally over the injuries that he's had. Offahan Gowie's a good, prop lock. So they've got some decent forward depth, but not a huge amount. They haven't gone too stupid on it. And you've got like Naden and Staines as well, who can play first grade footy at some level. Brendan Wakeham as a halfback, who's played for the Bulldogs. So it's, and Will Smith as well. He's probably going to be on a minimum contract. He's played for the Titans for a few years.
Yeah, the old
They've got some, getting jiggy with it.
Yeah,
They've got some NRL quality depth for a change too. So I've given them a 2.5.
Yeah, I'd give him a 2. I'd give him a 2. Yeah.
And finally, coach. Man, Tim Sheens. I've been unsure about this one. On one hand, okay.
Okay, let me go first.
You go first.
I'm going to give him a 2.
Which is exactly the score I gave him.
Okay, that's good. That's good.
Right, well,
I don't have any faith in him.
No, neither do I.
Mm.
Not at all. All right, let's have a look at how your team lined up.
Okay, now...
So your ladder.
Okay, now, I did a ladder myself before this, and I really thought really carefully about it. So it's going to be interesting to see if what my ratings line up with my ladder.
Yes. So let's have a look here. We'll just do a quick little click here. Sorry, wrong one. There we go. So you've got Penrith first.
Mm-hmm.
Clearly first.
Oh, really?
Yes.
Oh, wow.
And then the next 4, okay, I've not got them in a set order, so these can move around because they're all on the same points.
Yeah.
Roosters, Sharks, Melbourne, Cowboys.
Wow. Okay, so my top 4 that I selected just by myself was Penrith, North Queensland, Rabbitohs, and Cronulla, the Cronulla Sharks. So the Roosters moved up into that, and I guess who the Rabbitohs fell out?
Yes.
Okay.
South, though, are sitting just outside. They're only half a point behind those 4 teams.
Okay, and that's fair enough because I feel as though the top 6 or 7 could be pretty close. I think Penrith will win I think that they'll win the minor premiership, right?
Yeah.
But I think that the 2nd to 7th is going to be really close and could be a real shuffle.
You've got first Penrith being pretty clear ahead, and then the next 5 teams being almost perfectly even.
Really? That's interesting. Okay.
Then you've got a bit of a gap.
Yep.
And then you've got Parramatta at 7th.
Yep.
And Canberra at 8th.
Wow. Okay.
Then you've got Brisbane at 9th.
Yep.
Then Dolphins.
Wow. Yeah.
Manly.
Yeah.
Titans.
Okay. Yep.
Bulldogs.
Yep.
Tigers. Knights. Warriors and Dragons are equal last. So, Warriors and Dragons are equal last.
Warriors and Dragons are last. Okay, so my 17.
Yep.
All right. That I did before this.
Yep.
Penrith minor premiers, followed by North Queensland, the Rabbitohs, and then the Sharks. Just behind them, Parramatta, Eels, and Roosters. Then I had Melbourne in 7th and Canberra just making the 8. Okay.
Yep. That's Canberra just making that is what you've got here as well because they're only half a point ahead of Brisbane.
Okay. Yeah. Then I had Brisbane 9th.
Yep.
I had the Bulldogs in 10th. Gold Coast in 11th. Manly in 12th. The West Tigers in 13th. The New Zealand Warriors 14th. Dolphins 15th. Knights 16th and Dragons 17th.
There you go.
So it lined up pretty good, hey?
It really has. Now, we'll have a look at my one.
Okay.
So I had Penrith first, Cronulla second, Roosters third, Melbourne and South 4th and 5th on the same points, Cowboys at 6, Parramatta at 7, Canberra at 8, and they've just snuck in ahead of Manly by half a point, Brisbane at 10, Dolphins 11, Bulldogs 12, Titans and the Tigers equal 13. The Knights and the Warriors equal second last, and the Dragons last by half a point.
Whereabouts did you have the Dolphins again?
11th.
So we, between you and me doing the ratings and then me doing the ladder itself, we basically have a very similar thought of around where teams are going to finish within a place or two.
Yes.
That's interesting.
So, should we do our combined one?
Yeah. Show me what that says.
Okay. Penrith first, comfortably.
Mm-hmm.
Then second is the Roosters, and they're half a point ahead of the Sharks. They're 1 point ahead of Melbourne. They're 1 point ahead of the Cowboys. They're half a point ahead of South, who are 5 points clear of Parramatta, who are 3 points clear of Canberra and Brisbane, who are both equal 8th.
I think that's fair too. That was a difficult one, I felt. And I went with Canberra just because making the 8 over Brisbane, kind of similar to last year, to be honest with you.
Yeah, that's right. That's kind of where I was feeling too.
Yeah.
The Dolphins at 10th. Manly at 11th. The Bulldogs 12th. The Titans and the Tigers equal 13th. The Warriors at 15. The Knights at 16 and the Dragons at 17.
Wow, that's really interesting. I'm shocked at how well it lines up.
Yeah, it's amazing when you when you start going through it all and you just use a little bit of a rating system like that and you go, is that how I really think about it? Because then you probably look at it, and if you had more time to yourself, you probably go, you know what, I want to add some bias to it somewhere. Where can I change a few things to make it do what I really want it to say? But you end up probably falling back to what this is saying anyway.
Yeah, true. I guess the only one there that surprised me a little bit is I felt that North Queensland overall for both of our combined ones would be higher up.
Yeah.
And I'm surprised the Roosters were that high.
Yeah, the other one for me too is the Dolphins were quite a lot higher than I thought they would be. For a lot of people saying that they were going to be wooden spooners, I think that's nonsense.
But I don't think they'll be wooden spooners, but I think it sums up the Dolphins. I'm thinking about the Gold Coast Titans. Just the Titans in terms of because they were higher up than I thought, and it makes sense when you'll sort of rate their components of their team, but as an overall team, they suck.
Yeah.
You know?
The crazy thing is of the total points here, so Penrith ended up being on the top with 50.5 points, all up for both of us. The Dragons were last with 20. All right. Canberra and Brisbane sitting at equal 8th had 31.5. So there's 19 points clear between 1st and 8th. And there's 10 points between 8th and 16th.
Wow, that's interesting.
So the bottom 9 teams, really close.
I feel like that's what it's going to be like this year. I feel like as I said, the top 7 or so are going to be like almost anyone can beat anyone on any day.
Yeah. And
then from say 8th down to maybe, I don't know, 12th, it's going to be a little bit more of a gap between them, but they're still going to be able to beat one another. And then you could even go from, say, the bottom, 9 teams. And although I think that the Dragons, when I think about it, the Warriors, I think that they're both well away from everyone else. I think that they're both pretty bad.
Yeah, the Knights too have got a fair bit of work to do.
Yeah.
The Tigers look to be probably not too bad for them, given they're coming off a spoon, to be probably sitting around 13th.
Yeah.
Wouldn't be too bad. Yeah. It's turned out to be quite intriguing, to be honest. I was quite interested how that turned out.
Yeah, the only things I could see really mixing it up is the Seabold factor at the Manly Sea Eagles, where I could see that just turning into an absolute fucking mess. But I still think that the Dragons are a lock for the wooden spoon. I can't see how that gets salvaged.
Yeah, it's a bit of a mess, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's hard for me looking at the Knights team. I just can't place them. I don't know what it is, but I just look at them and go, I like watching them play footy last year, and I just thought, they've got nothing.
Mm.
Like they're just throwing the same thing at teams every single game, and it's very unimaginative. It's frustrating in a different way. Like watching the Tigers, they would throw different things at you, but they were so poor at executing it that it never worked.
Mm.
But they would throw different stuff at you, and that it looked more threatening than what the Knights offered. What let the Tigers down is execution was fucking dire, and they couldn't turn any of that good play into points. They just couldn't, and that's what fucked them over. But the Knights just look like they're going through the motions.
I think the other thing is too, the Knights, and they've done this for a long time, first of all, they overvalue what they have tremendously. And if it's somebody that they like personally, they just think they're tremendous. Like and I think that, the Saifidi brothers are a really good example of that, where they'll be like, oh, we got the Saifidi brothers. And most of the rest of the league is like, yeah, who gives a shit? Like, they're so forwards,
That's right.
But they're going back to their working class roots this year.
Again.
Yeah.
We've got a bunch of blokes who come from what? Well, it can't be the mines. They shut the mines down. Maybe from the local Telstra shop. A few from the Henny Penny drive-through.
The sooner they get out of this fucking dumb as fuck mindset that they're this like pub team that are just playing in the big leagues, the better. Because it has killed that club. And their fans turn up every fucking week. Like, their fans deserve so much better.
They have, for me, undoubtedly the best fans.
Yeah.
I've been to so many Knights games when I lived up there, and they are so committed and deserving of so much better up there.
Mm-hmm.
It's the one thing that, I don't mind sitting there hanging shit on clubs, but I'm always a bit hesitant with the Knights because their fans are generally good fans. They support their team like no one else, and they're committed and they're loyal and they keep turning up. And it kind of sucks that they get this shit dished up to them because they do deserve better.
Yeah, there's so many games where you would tune in and you'd be like, oh god, it's this fucking team, and you'd turn on the TV and the stands are fucking almost full, and it's like, this is insane. Like, where's something going on? Are they having some special day or something? It's like they just turn up. They had a half decent football team, they'd be selling out every week, but they haven't had a half decent football team for it's going on nearly 20 years.
It's been a while.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's our big season preview.
Now, I've got two more questions to ask you from the season preview. Who do you think will get the Dally M?
Yeah, good question. Thinking. Oh man,
I tell you who I picked. I picked Dylan Edwards.
Dylan Edwards,
and it was because the media loves him, and he's going to play most of their games, and he won't disappear for Origin. And I just think that they're going to win a lot of games, and I just think it's that kind of combination of things that'll come together where he'll end up with a lot of points.
Okay, I'm going to say Latrell Mitchell.
Okay, that's interesting.
I think he is due a massive season like we've never seen before. Like, we're talking an English quality season at his best. I think that's what we're going to get from Latrell this year.
That would be so fucking cool, hey?
That'd be fucking immense.
He's just a destroyer of worlds. He's one of how many players could you say? Like him, Taumalolo, possibly Kikau if he went up another level.
Yeah, there's very few. He's just, and like watching him last year when he came back from injury and suspension and stuff like that in that back half of that season, and he was just having a practice run and destroying teams. He wasn't even trying. It's like, this is a fucking practice run for him, and he's killing it.
Yeah.
I don't know if I want to see him trying hard. I don't know if my eyes are ready for that. It's like, fuck, this guy's insane.
It makes me miss Greg Inglis, hey? I loved watching Greg Inglis play. When Greg Inglis was like, when there were those games where it was like, there's nothing anybody else can do because Greg Inglis is just, he's winning it.
Yeah, he's just doing Greg Inglis things.
Yeah.
Latrell's in that area. I think he's due a huge year.
Now, who do you think will be the best signing? Because I think it'll be Papali for the West Tigers. I think that he's going to be a real standout.
Yeah. I don't know. I think Hastings is going to be a pretty good one for the Knights.
Yep. He was
I think they've lost a lot of direction in their playmaking. So he's going to be a big signing for them. Tarek Sims from Melbourne.
Mm-hmm.
I reckon he could be immense there.
I also wouldn't be shocked if we kind of got to mid-season and it was like, wow, Luke Garner's been like used really well by the Panthers, you know?
Yeah, I mean, that wouldn't surprise me either. Not one bit.
Whether it was they move him into the centres or they keep him as like a wide running back rower almost and try and get him doing like he's not going to be Kickow, but doing some of the sort of things that Kickow used to do. I could see that happening as well.
Yeah. But, you know, I think I'll rest my hat on a rookie.
Mm-hmm.
I think Isaiah Katoa.
Oh, that's a good one.
Big raps on him.
Yeah.
Love what he did in the World Cup, and I think he's if he can handle that stage, then pissy old NRL club games, he'll nail it. He's got that shit covered, man. And for Wayne Bennett to give him the starting halves gig in their debut game, yeah, he's done some good shit.
Yes, but Bennett brought Milford in. He was one of his guys, and to drop Milford for him, that's big. That's a big sign
for a teenager from Penrith.
Yeah,
that's pretty much what it is.
Now, who do you think will be the semi-finalists this year? Because I think it's pretty clear we both feel like Penrith will probably be the minor premiers.
So we're talking Final Four?
Final Four, yeah.
Penrith, Cronulla, Cowboys, South.
That's who I pick as well.
Yeah.
And I think that, okay, now who do you think will be the grand finalists?
Penrith South.
Oh, man, that's a good one. I'm going to go Penrith North Queensland. And I could very easily go South, but I don't know. I just have a little bit of a feeling about North Queensland.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm going solely off the back of my Latrell's going to be fucking epic.
Yep. I have a feeling with the North Queensland pack, there's going to be games where it's just horrifying to see what they're doing. And I think Luciano Leilua is going to be the difference between them having a good season and possibly winning a premiership. Because if he's solid, that'll be great. But if he does all of the solid stuff and he's doing the special stuff he can do, that adds such a wrinkle to their attack that it's just like, how the fuck do you stop it?
Yeah, absolutely. No, that's fair too.
Then
that is fair.
I guess the last question is, who do you think will be premiers?
It's hard to go against Penrith.
Yeah.
If they do it, they'll be the first team since Parramatta in 80 to 82. I think to do 3 straight.
Yep. It would.
It'll also be the first time since that Parramatta side as well to do 4 grand finals in a row, I think.
Yep. Not
too many teams have done that, because I think prior to that it would be Dragons.
Melbourne?
Did they?
in the mid to late noughties, going into the tens.
The pretend ones.
Oh, do we?
They don't count.
That's fair.
They don't count.
I think that if Penrith do manage to win it, I think that the underrated thing will be that they are that their youth was the determining factor, because a team that normally would be in this position would be much older, and the grind would have got to them more than it will have for the Panthers, just because they're a younger team, a younger outfit. But it would be insane. It would be absolutely insane.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
And it's really hard to tip against them, eh?
And then after they've won that title, they can go over to St Helens and beat them on their home ground and make the world right again.
Now, I asked this to Johnny when we had the podcast, right? If they went over to St Helens and beat them, if they beat them by 1 point, then it's kind of, I don't know, it's like meh, right? If they went over to St Helens and thrashed them, does that make up for what they did? Because I'm filthy about them losing.
Yeah, I don't know. I think in a game like that, a win's a win. Doesn't matter by how much. So I think it just makes them 1-1.
Okay.
Because I think, I think a St Helens win in Australia is pretty fucking big.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, that's the thing. That's why I wonder if Penrith would need to go over there and put a big score on them to be like, we went over there and stomped them, in reply. But then again, I don't know that makes up for it. Do they have to go over there and beat them twice, which would mean they'd have to win 4 in a row, which would be fucking outrageous.
I don't think you can ever make up for a loss.
Do you reckon so? But here's the thing, because I think you can when it comes to say you lose the grand final one year and then you beat the same team the next year. I think that can make up for it. But you don't believe so?
Nah.
Okay, that's fair enough.
I think a loss still hurts. I don't think a win after that makes up for the loss.
Okay. Because I can tell you for 91 that we beat the Raiders, it felt like, okay, we beat those guys finally. That's good. We've done that. And then we beat the Roosters, but didn't have to play them again, really. Then we lost to Melbourne, and it was nice to be able to beat them in the final, just because you were overcoming a great team. It's like, well, can they do it? And then they did. But they still lost to Melbourne in grand final.
Yeah. That's the thing about Melbourne, is they can do that. It's an interesting start. I think Melbourne's playing South this week. I can't remember. No, it's Parramatta, isn't it?
Let me find it. NRL.
Pretty sure
Eels
it's Parramatta
versus Storm.
Yeah. So Parramatta's won the last 4 regular season games against Melbourne.
Mm-hmm.
But there's 2 other games that have been played in there. They're both in the finals, and Melbourne won both of them.
Yeah.
That's Melbourne.
That's also Parramatta.
That's true too.
I saw somebody on Twitter the other day saying, I think last year Parramatta really showed everyone how to beat Penrith. And
when?
I didn't even reply to it. I was like, come on, man. We literally saw Penrith snatch their soul out of their chest for 40 minutes in the grand final.
This is right. Well, I think we should probably wrap this up. What do you reckon?
Yeah, it's been a good episode. It's been fun. I like the ladder. We should maybe do it again mid-season and see if our results change, hey?
I'm very open to that.
Yeah, but I think that the ladder needs to become a permanent fixture in our pre-season previews.
We can definitely do that. That's not a problem at all.
Because it worked really well.
I think it's done pretty damn good.
Mm-hmm.
I might try and make it something that everyone can muck around with.
Yeah, that'd be cool. That'd be really cool.
Alrighty then. Well, thanks for tuning in, everyone. It's been a long one.
Everyone go to our, if you go to our Twitter page, it's twitter.com/FergoFreakPod. You will see, if you scroll down a little bit, you'll see the code to join our NRL tipping competition, which is free through NRL.com. You'll see the link. Just click on the link and register your team in that. Pick your tips. We must have close on 30 people already. We've only had it up a couple of days. So, get on that and see if you can beat me and Andrew.
Well, I mean, you can beat me. See if you can be freaky.
I was copping so much shit from people saying, "I beat you this year. I beat you last." It's like, shut up, Julie.
Yeah, I was copping the same sort of rubbish too, and I was like, man, why have I got an 8-year-old bragging about beat me in tips?
Oh man,
she's picking them based on which animal would win in a fight. I'm going, why did I think of that system?
Oh shit.
It helped that she thought that the tiger was an ant because she's gone, it doesn't have any claws. It can't be a tiger.
That's a good point.
Yeah. All right. See, that's where I was going wrong all this time. All right, people. Well, look, thanks for tuning in. It's been a long one, but it's been a bloody brilliant one.
That's what she said.
Haven't had one of those for a while.
That's what she said.
Make sure you check out us on the socials on Twitter and Instagram at FergoFreakPod. We're on Facebook, LinkedIn, and YouTube. Like, subscribe, share it around. That'd be awesome. And we will catch you all next time.